The reason you feel overwhelmed isn't because you have too much to do. It's because you're trying to be 3 different types of workers at the same time, and your brain literally cannot handle the switching costs. Research shows that workplace interruptions can cost up to 40% of your productivity, and most people get interrupted every 3 minutes. I discovered this when I analyzed my most productive days versus my most chaotic ones, and what I found changed everything. There are exactly 3 types of workers, and once you identify which one you are right now, you can design your entire work approach around your cognitive strengths instead of fighting against them. But first, we need to understand what productivity actually means. The real definition of productivity in 2025. Most people think productivity means getting more things done faster. They measure success by how many emails they sent, how many meetings they attended, or how many tasks they checked off their list. This is completely wrong. Productivity is actually the amount of meaningful output you create divided by the focused input you put in. The math is simple, but most people get it backwards. In 2025, the average knowledge worker faces constant app switching throughout their day, and research shows this behavior can reduce productivity by 15 to 40%. Think about that impact for a second. Nearly half of your productive capacity gets lost just from jumping to different tools and tasks. Every single switch costs your brain energy and time to refocus. This creates what I call the productivity illusion, where you feel incredibly busy, but you accomplish nothing that actually matters. Here's what happens when you switch between apps constantly. Your brain has to load the context of what you were doing, remember where you left off, and then orient itself to the new task. This switching process creates a significant drain on your cognitive resources. So when you check Slack in the middle of writing a report, you're not just losing the 30 seconds it takes to read the message. You're losing the mental energy and focus it takes to get back into the flow of writing. Most people spend their entire day in this switching state. They open their laptop, check email, jump to a spreadsheet, get a notification from their project management tool, hop on a quick call, then try to remember what they were doing before the call started. They end the day exhausted because their brain has been working overtime just to keep up with the context switching, not to actually produce anything valuable. I used to be trapped in this exact cycle. 3 years ago, I was working 60-hour weeks and barely keeping my head above water. I had a massive to-do list that never seemed to get shorter. I was constantly putting out fires and responding to other people's urgent requests. At the end of each week, I felt like I had worked incredibly hard, but I couldn't point to anything significant I had actually accomplished. Then I discovered something that changed everything. I started tracking not just what I did each day, but what type of work I was doing and when I did it. What I found shocked me. My best work, the stuff that actually moved my business forward, happened during very specific time blocks when I wasn't switching between different types of activities. When I protected those time blocks and eliminated the switching, something incredible happened. I went from 60-hour weeks to 35-hour weeks, but my output tripled. I wasn't working harder, I was working in alignment with how my brain actually functions. The key was understanding that there are 3 distinct types of workers, and most people try to be all 3 at the same time. This is where most productivity advice fails. People give you time management tips or productivity hacks, but they don't help you understand what type of work you need to be doing and when you need to be doing it. They treat all work as the same when in reality, different types of work require completely different approaches. True productivity isn't about managing your time better. It's about understanding your work type and then engineering your entire day around maximizing that type of work. When you try to mix different work types together, you create switching costs that destroy your effectiveness. But when you batch similar work and eliminate the switching, productivity becomes almost effortless. The 3 worker types solve this switching cost problem completely. Each type has a natural rhythm and specific requirements for peak performance. When you identify your primary type and structure your day around it, you stop fighting against your brain and start working with it instead. Most people are actually a combination of these types, but they have one primary type that drives the majority of their value creation. The problem is they've never identified which type they are, so they bounce between all three throughout the day and wonder why they feel scattered and overwhelmed. Here's what makes this even more crucial in 2025. The modern workplace has created more opportunities for switching than ever before. We have more communication channels, more collaboration tools, and more ways for other people to interrupt our work. If you don't have a system for protecting your primary work type, you'll get pulled in every direction and accomplish nothing meaningful. The first type is called a maker. Makers create substantial work that requires long periods of uninterrupted focus. The second type is a manager. Managers coordinate and direct others through meetings, decisions, and communication. The third type is a hybrid who must excel at both creating and managing, but never at the same time. Each type requires a completely different approach to scheduling, environment design, and daily structure. A system that works perfectly for a manager will destroy a maker's productivity. A schedule that makes a maker incredibly effective will frustrate a manager and limit their impact. The biggest breakthrough comes when you stop trying to be good at all three types and instead become exceptional at your primary type. This isn't about limiting yourself, it's about maximizing your natural strengths and working in harmony with how your brain actually functions. Once you identify your type, everything else becomes systematic. You know exactly when to schedule different activities, how to structure your day for maximum output, and how to protect your most valuable working hours from interruptions and switching costs. I'm going to show you exactly how to identify which type you are, and then give you the specific calendar system that eliminates overwhelm for your type. This isn't theoretical productivity advice. This is a practical system that accounts for the reality of how work actually happens in 2025. The calendar system I'll share works because it's built around your natural working style instead of fighting against it. Most people try to force themselves into productivity systems that weren't designed for their work type, then blame themselves when the system doesn't work. When you align your schedule with your worker type, productivity stops being about willpower and discipline. It becomes automatic because you're finally working with your brain instead of against it. The switching costs disappear, the overwhelm fades, and you start producing the kind of work that actually moves your business forward.